Herkese merhaba, ben Orkun Yazgan, Çevre TV ekranlarına. Hoş geldiniz. Bugün özel yayınımızla sizlerle birlikteyiz. Florian Burkhardt bizimle birlikte, Almanya-Türkiye Büyükelçiliği Ekonomi ve Ticaret Müsteşarı Burkhardt'la birlikteyiz. Almanya'nın çevre sorunlarına yaklaşımını konuşacağız. Alman hükümeti özellikle güneş enerjisi başta olmak üzere yenilenebilir enerji konularında da son derece aktif ve özellikle hedefleri var. 2030 hedefleri, 2050 hedefleri. Tüm bunları Florian Burkhardt, Alman ekonomi ve ticaret müsteşarı ile konuşacağız. Kendisi stüdyomuzda. Welcome, sir.
Merhaba, thanks for having me.
Merhaba, willkommen.
Thank you.
In that snowy day in Istanbul, you'll be back to Ankara. So we'll have this conversation, this interview, and you'll be back. So welcome again. It's really important for us to have you, to welcome you in our studio. Our main topic is environment, of course, but world is facing a war. We will have some words for that situation also. But before all of those, how the daily life goes on Turkey, in the embassy in Ankara, in all over the Turkey, your mission, your objectives. Also, there is a pandemic, of course, not easy days. But how everything is going, sir?
Well, personally, it's going very well, I would say. Thank you very much. I moved to Ankara actually only last summer, so I haven't been staying for a too long time here in Turkey, but it's also not my first time. I went on vacation for many times to Antalya and Izmir, but professionally, as a diplomat, I came here last summer together with my family, two little kids, and we are very happy here.
Okay, welcome again. So let us start with the dimensions of Germany-Turkey relations in terms of social, financial, commercial, economic and cultural perspective. Where are we now?
Well, in general, I would say the ties of our two countries, societies are extremely close in basically all fields of our relations, of bilateral relations, culturally, economically. I mean, take alone the 10,000 millions people, citizens in Germany with a Turkish background. Before I moved to Ankara, I lived in Berlin in the district of Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg. There's really lots of also Turkish culture in everyday life, many Turkish restaurants. So they're very close ties. And as from the topic I'm following here, mostly is the trade and commercial relations. There's also very, very close links. I mean, Germany is the most important trade partner of Turkey in terms of Turkish exports. But there are also many companies, over 7,000 German companies active in Turkey, some of them for a very, very long time already, very experienced, but also vice versa. So many Turkish companies successfully engaged in Germany.
Turkish people living and working in Germany, it's like the third or fourth generation, I think, now.
Yes, absolutely.
It's quite a long time. So let's go a little bit with that war situation, unfortunately. We are here to talk for the environment, but world is facing a war. How Germany, your country, approaches to that crisis? You know, there are also some sanctions towards Russia, especially in energy crisis. Let us have a few words from you. How is the German government approach to that crisis?
Yes, first I would like to say that during the last days and last week there have been 100,000 people in Germany on the street, literally in every city to protest against this terrible
demonstrations
war.
Against it.
Yes. So the German government is conducting very, very tough economic sanctions against Russia. As you know, together with the European Union, also as presidency of the group of seven, the G7 group. Germany is currently the presidency of this group, is facilitating these sanctions. So our Chancellor, who is actually visiting Ankara next Monday, is very active, and also our foreign minister. But besides all that, I think one thing becomes very clear, that we have to put an even stronger focus in the future on renewable energies. So this leads us to our topic today.
Yeah. Today there's a special and important meeting in Turkey. You know, the Ukrainian and Russian foreign ministers are here in Antalya, so they will discuss, and we hope the result will be positive.
Absolutely.
So, you know, in those days, especially in the last days, in any kind of meetings, conference, summit, the top of the agenda is environment. The last one was in Glasgow, as you know, with the UK presidency, COP26. How do you evaluate the results of that special summit of COP26?
Well, we believe that the COP in Edinburgh has been a great success. First of all, it's always important that the international community comes together once in a year to discuss this huge challenge of climate change. And especially Edinburgh had very good results. First of all, in terms of sending a very, very clear signal that climate policy has to reach the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal. This hasn't been so clear in the past, so this is one important outcome of the conference. The second one, I think, is that we have to show solidarity with the states, with the countries mostly affected by climate change. These two things, I think, were the main, most important and successful outcomes of the conference. However, one could say that maybe we would have wished a bit of a stronger answer in terms of sending a message on ending the era of fossil energies. But there are always high expectations, and it's good that there are high expectations, and they cannot always 100% met. But what we have is a success, and I think we have to work on that coming to the next conference, which will take place this fall in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt.
Egypt will be the president. So, how Germany approaches to environmental issues, the climate change, the global warming, you know, the zero carbon target, water scarcity. This is the main problem also for you and for all over the world. And you are one of the leading countries, especially in renewable energy and something else. So, it's important.
There has been a long tradition in Germany, actually, I think, in the great awareness for environmental issues in general, also since the beginning of the 1980s. In recent years, the focus really is on climate change, as everybody starts to really feel it also in his personal environment. I mean, we had a terrible flooding last year in Germany, in Western Germany, where entire areas were flooded in summer, and with many people were killed as well. So you had incidents in Turkey also as well. There were floods on the, I think, Black Sea border, forest fires at the Mediterranean Sea. Also, so this becomes closer, and it's coming closer to us.
Also, we had musilaj in Istanbul. You know, the white things over the sea, also for the climate change. So there are also some disasters. Unfortunately,
no, absolutely. Unfortunately, and people are coming closer to the consequences of climate change. So Germany started already 10-20 years ago and decided that we are going to conduct what we call in German the Energiewende, the energy transition away from the era of fossil energies to renewable energies. So we really want to put the focus on renewable energies massively, build up on solar power, wind power, hydropower energy, and our plan is that by 2030, so by the end of this decade, we want to have 80% of our energy requirements met by renewables. 80%. That's the plan. Currently we have 45%. 45 so already. This is already, I think, is a success, and obviously it's a huge challenge to strengthen this further, but that's the plan, and I'm personally optimistic that we will manage to do this.
You're already half of the way, almost. So Germany is one of the leading countries in those kind of issues, especially for climate change and all. It's like a pioneer country, leading country. And anything changed with the new government, new political situation after the elections?
I would say already our last federal government put a very, very strong focus on climate policy. So there is not a change in the direction, but there is a change in the ambition and in the effort,
the speed.
put in. So the speed. Our new government, they agreed on a coalition treaty, which is the usual procedure in Germany when forming a government, and they included many concrete measures and instruments to reach the goals which have been set already by previous governments. So the long-term goal is becoming carbon neutral by 2045, which is also a more ambitious target. In the past we said, the German government said becoming carbon neutral by 2050. So 2045 is, I think, extremely ambitious. But our new government is putting a lot of efforts on that. So we have a new Ministry for Economic Affairs, which is not new, but it's newly also competent for climate change. And our Vice Chancellor is responsible to conduct these policies. So, and just maybe to mention a few concrete instruments which they are planning to do is that 2% of Germany's land area are to be designated in the future for wind energy, which is quite a lot of space. So, and there's also some resistance in the people living around. So it's difficult. It's a huge challenge. But we are optimistic to manage this.
Yeah, I think there's a Turkish minister in the government, Mr. Özdemir, huh?
Cem Özdemir, yeah.
Cem Özdemir.
Well, he has a Turkish origin, but he's a German, German citizen, very popular politician, and is now he used to be the chairperson of the German Green Party, and now he's a minister for agricultural affairs and. Agricultural affairs. Yeah,
I was in Brussels or in Strasbourg. I think we came together with a group of journalists with Mr. Özdemir. He had a lecture for us. He was the president, I think, of the Greens at that time.
Yes.
Like 15 years ago. So he's a positive man, and his works are important, of course. So let us have some details for your objectives of 2030. And you already mentioned, but little bit details maybe, and 2045 and 50. What are your objectives for mission, for targets for those years?
Yeah, well, as I said, the long-term goal is becoming carbon neutral by 2045. So, and there are, of course, intermediate goals and steps on the way to achieve it. I believe one of the most challenging tasks for Germany, as for many other countries, is to replace and to phase out of coal energy. So this is obviously extremely difficult, and we were planning to do this by 2038, which is already a huge challenge, and now the new government decided that it should take place ideally until 2030, so already until the end of this decade. And this is a huge challenge because of the power generated so far by coal needs to be replaced ideally by renewables. And I think this is the main challenge for our government currently.
So let's continue with renewable energy. Sir, Germany is a leading country, especially in solar energy. So how it started and where are you now, especially for solar energy, but of course the wind power energy?
Well, solar power is a bit more difficult for us, as unfortunately there's not so much sunshine in Germany. That's why we love to. Yeah, that's why we love to go on vacation to Turkey. So our conditions for solar energy are not so well as compared to other countries. Still, this is also a priority. We started more than 20 years ago with the law, the Act on Renewable Energies, which gives subsidies to renewables. This is phasing out now, but this was the initial idea to give lots of money to this new technology so that it can start also getting economically feasible. And this is the situation we have now. So now we have around 9% of our power requirement is by solar energy. 9%.
Okay.
It is planned to improve this further in the coalition treaty I mentioned. There is one or two projects on that, and concretely is that basically every roof of a building in Germany should be in the future with solar
panels.
Yeah. So, and it will become even, or it is planned that this becomes even mandatory for commercial buildings. But in the end, I think Germany, I believe, will not be able to meet fully the energy requirements with solar energy because we don't have enough sun. So that's why we need wind energy as well, and that's also an instrument we use with great emphasis.
Maybe with offshore wind or the sea.
Absolutely, yeah, offshore in the yes, in Northern
which part
Sea,
you have in
Baltic
Hamburg
Sea,
and Nordic Sea? Huh? Okay.
In Baltic Sea, Nordic
Baltic
Sea,
also.
we have offshore energy, but also onshore energy, and as I mentioned, the idea is now to have 2% of Germany's land area designated for wind energy.
Great. So an interesting subject, an interesting question, because we'll talk about the cars. World famous brands, German cars. So we have BMW, Mercedes, and Porsche. Porsche, how do you call it?
Porsche, yeah.
Porsche. Yeah. Okay, so how do you see today's and future of that car sector? Because there's a transformation, you know, electrical car, hybrid car, and now electrical car. Everything is changing. So let's talk about the car sector in Germany. Are they prepared? They already started, of course, but where are they now?
Yes, absolutely. I believe, and I'm convinced, we are seeing also a transformation away from the combustion engine to new technology, mostly electric vehicles. And yes, as you said, the German car companies, car manufacturers are already leading in this field and producing electric vehicles, but yeah, obviously this is also a huge challenge for the industry. But let me say this is the German climate policy, or the idea behind German climate policy is really to not do it against the businesses, against the economic growth. The idea and the policy of our government is to combine this, so to have climate change plus economic growth, and I even believe that it's possible to create growth by using new technologies tackling the climate crisis. So the car manufacturers are maybe one example, because of course it requires great efforts in research and development, but I think this has always been a strength of our German car companies. Okay,
I was in Germany right before the pandemic, and the taxis and lots of cars were hybrids, you know, the mix. But the transformation is going on, and all the manufacturers are aware of the problem. And they are on their way, I think.
Yes, on their way, but still, and I think it's necessary also to mention that there are many challenges and obstacles on the way. I think one important thing is to create the infrastructure for the loading infrastructure,
of course,
which is not yet there, at least not there in the
the charging system, the batteries.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's technically it's there, but of course it needs, especially in the big cities, it's difficult, and we need new ideas to integrate it into our cities.
How is the system, the government's approaches to that sector? Are there any incentive, any supports, or any plans? They work together, or they are free?
No, yes, there is already a subsidy. So if you buy right now a new electric vehicle, you get some money deducted, which is then paid by the German government. So the idea is, of course, to give an initial push.
Less tax?
No, you get a discount on the price. So, so the idea is to give an initial push for this technology, because right now still the electric vehicles are a bit more expensive than the traditional ones.
Okay. Also, in those days, you mentioned before, also with the subject of environment, there are some protests, some demonstrations. And for those days, for the war, of course, people against the war. And there's a organization, Fridays for Future. What do you think for those kind of demonstrations? They were on the street of Berlin at the beginning of that week, I think. Fridays for Future, the students and people against war. So what do you think for those kind of movements?
Yes, no, Fridays for Future, they have been on the streets for I think 2-3 years now. Traditionally every Friday, so that's why the name is there, obviously. And well, I believe that it is extremely important to have an active civil society, which also sometimes pushes the government. I mean, there is not always, Fridays for Future and the German government are not always on the same line.
Of course.
Exactly. So, but I still believe it's necessary and it's good to have such a movement, and also it's important that society is working also on the topic and is interested and is active, and because without the people it will not be possible to reach this transformation, this huge transformation of economy, because it also affects obviously the society.
How do you see the general awareness of German people against or for that climate change and all those kind of issues, especially the young people?
Yeah, I think there is a great awareness within the younger generation, but also the older population in Germany has traditionally, I would say, a great awareness for environmental issues in general, and the climate change really is coming now to be the top priority. So I think the awareness is there, but obviously it sometimes becomes difficult when it comes to, concrete consequences. Of course, Germans love their cars. I love my car. And I want to drive with my car also in the future. So, and Germans want to drive with their cars in the future. So that's why, of course, sometimes there is also a bit of a fear. How will it go on in the future? So I think really the politics need to find solutions to take the people, to take this society with them.
Also, what about the recycling, more social issues? Where are you now? Where are you now? Are there any sanctions against the people who doesn't, separate their garbage and those kind of things?
It's not that bad. I think in Germany, there are no sanctions, at least no really sanctions. But
because in Switzerland there are some penalties for.
There might be.
Also in Italy,
I'm not too sure. Maybe there are some smaller, but I haven't seen that anybody is checking, your garbage in front of the door. But still, people, they separate their garbage. It's kind of. It has been there for such a long time. I don't even remember myself when we didn't separate garbage. So I think it's kind of
it's already common
in our mind, and it doesn't, at least to my feeling, it doesn't create lots of resistance.
Yeah. And also, we don't say garbage; we say waste.
Oh yeah.
Okay, correction for both of us. So. Very important subject. There are some discussions in European Union. The subject is nuclear energy. Do we consider it like renewable energy or not? Where are you? Where is Germany? In which part? I know, but you...
Now, our position is that we have our position is that we have a phase out of nuclear energy as well. So this has already been decided 20 years ago in the first place. Then it was, let's say, enhanced when Fukushima took place. We have a tradition in Germany of a huge resistance and protests against nuclear energy, which started in the 1980s when the incident in Chernobyl, thank you, took place, and then in Fukushima. So the decision was taken that Germany will not longer use nuclear energy. And
the conception in the public opinion is negative, of course.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
So the decision is there. We will phase out actually this year. The last remaining nuclear power plants in Germany will be turned off because we believe that it's just too risky. We've seen Chernobyl, we've seen Fukushima. We don't really have a solution for the nuclear waste. So that's why we have decided to phase out nuclear energy. But as you said, there are, and this is not a secret, there are different opinions in the European Union. And I mean, I would say I don't want to advise other countries on how to do this, but as for Germany, we decided to not longer use nuclear energy, and we really want to put the fully go with renewable energies in the long term.
Okay, so thank you so much. With all those kind of problems, solutions, are you optimistic? As a diplomat, are you optimistic for the future of the world?
Well, yes, I'm an optimistic
in terms
guy,
of environment
so,
and all those kind of problems.
Absolutely, no, I'm optimistic because it's a huge task, and the climate crisis is such a huge task and challenge, and we really need to work together globally because it cannot be solved by one country or by 2 or 3. So it needs to be solved by the entire international community, and we've seen really great steps forward. We mentioned at the beginning the COPs and the Paris Agreement. Turkey ratified last year Paris Agreement, which we welcome very much. So I think this is a very important step. And so it really there is progress, and I'm optimistic that we will be in the end able to tackle this challenge.
You're welcome in our studio in that snowy day. The snow has just started, so you'll be back to Ankara.
Yeah, so we are hoping to manage to get back today.
Okay.
But
İyi yolculuklar. So thank you so much, and see you again. Thank you.
Teşekkür ederim. Thank you very much.
Biz teşekkür ederiz. Evet, konuğumuz Almanya'nın Türkiye Büyükelçiliği'nin ekonomi ve ticaret müsteşarı Sayın Florian Burkhardt'tı. Alman hükümetinin çevre sorunlarına yaklaşımını konuştuk, savaşı konuştuk ve özellikle Avrupa'da devam eden enerji krizini, yine Almanya'nın buna yaklaşımını, Rusya ile yaptırımlar konusunda yaklaşımını konuştuk. Almanya'da halkın çevre sorunları konusunda farkındalığı, uygulamaları, bunları konuştuk. Fridays for Future hareketini konuştuk. Şöyle bir altını çizmek gerekirse, gelecek için, yani çevre başlıklı sorunlarla ilgili Sayın Burkhardt gelecek için umutlu olduğunu söylüyor. 2030 hedefleri, 2050 hedefleri ve Türkiye'nin Paris İklim Anlaşması'nı imzalamasının da öneminin altını çizmiş oldu. Böylelikle Çevre Günlüğü'ndeki özel yayınımızın da sonuna gelmiş olduk. Yeniden görüşmek üzere, hoşça kalın.